Welcome back to Doctors Teach, the podcast where we say the quiet parts out loud about resident remediation and faculty development. Today's episode is for the folks who think, oh, I'll just jot down a few notes is an acceptable documentation strategy. Spoiler alert, it's not. Let's talk about how to document your remediation process clearly, professionally, and in a way that protects both your resident and your program. Listen, if you've ever had to dig through a 6-month-old email chain trying to figure out what was actually said in a remediation meeting, you already know. Documentation is everything. It protects the resident, it protects the program, and it's the only thing that speaks for you if things escalate. So if it's not documented, it didn't happen. I swear I've said this to residents a million times, and I'm sure that you've done the same. But if it's documented badly, it might as well have not happened either. So let's walk through a case example to show why solid documentation isn't just helpful, but it's essential. Imagine you've got a resident on remediation for professionalism concerns. We've all got them, right? Nothing egregious, just some recurring issues, like ignoring pages, skipping team huddles, that eye roll reflex every time someone gives feedback. Yeah, I've been there too. So multiple faculty have raised concerns, and so you get together as a remediation team and you build a remediation plan and you start the whole process. You meet with the resident, you talk through the expectations, you all agree on next steps, and everyone thinks it's going fine. And then fast forward a few months and the CCC is reviewing the progress, and suddenly the resident says, wait, I didn't know I was still on remediation. No one told me I hadn't met expectations, or, hey, we talked about it, but I thought it was resolved. So now your same remediation team is flipping through emails and shared drives, but all they find are notes like, talked with the resident, or plan is going well. There's no detailed notes, no timeline, no summary email from the meeting, and even more, no written acknowledgement that the resident understood the plan. So even though you know the resident hasn't met the goals, you can't prove it. Now you're in a he said, she said situation, and the CCC can't escalate the plan because there's no objective evidence, just vibe. This is why documentation has to be structured, clear, and consistent, because if the resident disputes your version of events, and they might, then you really need to be able to pinpoint the plan, the dates, the emails, the metrics, all of it. The story has to be in the documentation. And if it's not, you may end up back at square one, extending the plan, or even worse, losing credibility with the GME office or legal counsel. So here's best practice number 1. Use real-time tools. It's best to designate someone to take meeting minutes, ideally not the same person leading the team. In my own program, I'm usually the person documenting the meeting minutes because I can type really fast and usually verbatim. But if I'm the one talking, then I really need someone to take those meeting minutes for me because otherwise it's going to get lost. And if I have to rely on my recollection, then things are going to get missed. It's also important to use a standardized template. Save it in a centralized, locked folder. That way, everyone can get to the meeting minutes and all of that documentation. What you really want is receipts. Organized, time-stamped, professional receipts. Best practice number 2. This is a good one. Stick to the facts. Document the observable behavior. What's bad is saying the resident was rude. Something that's good to put in meeting minutes is resident said, this isn't my problem, or they left the room without responding to the question. That's objective, and that's what makes it defensible. Your documentation should read like a court transcript, not a Yelp review. So really, in my experience, I just state the facts. I don't insert my opinions. I don't talk about, how the resident seemed or appeared. I just stick to the actual facts. If the resident didn't respond, I record that. If the resident responded, I may use actual quotes from the resident that may end up in my meeting minutes. So it's good to go ahead and take just a clean transcript of everything that was said and insert specific comments to really drive the point home that you're trying to make in your minutes. If it's something that needs to be documented, pull out those specific quotes. All right, best practice number 3, summarize in a follow-up email. So this is really important, and I think it's part of just closed loop communication, right? So sending a brief summary to the resident after every single meeting, it really just confirms what was discussed and what comes next. This reinforces clarity and closes the loop. I like to say clear beats clever, and don't get cute, get precise. So if you're the one documenting the minutes, give those a quick look through, have everybody in the meeting that was there review the minutes to make sure they're accurate and a detailed record, and then forward those on to the resident so that they have it for their records as well. All right, let's talk about why this matters. So if the resident appeals, or if the G&E office gets involved, or if you end up writing a final verification letter, the documentation is what tells the story. And if your story is full of vague phrases and undocumented conversations, well, the resident's version might win. Basically, vague documentation makes your program very vulnerable. We want to make sure that all residents, even the ones in the future, can rely on this process and know that it's an equitable and fair process. So as a recap, here's what we're going to do from now on. Document in real time, be factual and not emotional, and send those follow-up summaries every single time. Documentation isn't extra, it's essential. And done right, it's really your best protection as a program. In the next episode, we're going to get into the emotional trenches. We're going to talk about what to do when a resident breaks down crying or blows up. It's not fun, but I'll give you strategies to survive it with your professionalism and your paperwork intact. And as always, thank you for supporting my podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube and you want tools to tighten up your remediation process, then don't forget to download the free introductory lesson of the Elevate Remediation Fast Track course. Or go to my website and take the free remediation risk assessment. You can find it at www.docmaclearning.com. Both are linked below, so grab what you need. And I'll see you in the next episode.